So, what if I told you that a single government rule, just a few pages of text, forced one of the world's biggest industries to completely tear down and rebuild its digital backbone? It sounds like science fiction, right? But it's not. It's the real story of how a single regulation completely rewrote the code of modern banking. Let's dive into how it all went down.
And this quote right here, it just perfectly captures what we're talking about. The database story is transformative. This wasn't just about banks grudgingly checking off some boxes for regulators. Nope. This was about a demand for better data that ended up sparking a full-blown revolution in database architecture.
To really get the scale of this whole thing, we have to jump in a time machine and go back to how things were before. So, welcome to what we'll call a system divided, the era of data chaos.
Okay, try to picture this. In a big bank, you've got the credit risk team over here, working out of their own dashboard, their own little world, and then way over on the other side of the building, you've got the liquidity risk team, and they're buried in a mountain of separate spreadsheets. The result? It was a mess. The data was inconsistent, reporting was all manual, and nobody had a single unified view of the bank's total risk. It was a ticking time bomb of information chaos.
But, a system that chaotic can't last forever. It was about to hit a regulatory brick wall. And that brings us to the next chapter of our story, the 2014 mandate, which was a real turning point for the entire industry. And this is the year, 2014. Seriously, if you take one thing away from all this, remember this date. This was the moment everything, and I mean everything, changed for risk data in banking. So what actually happened? Well, in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, that's the OCC, they dropped this new rulebook called Heightened Standards. And at its core, the mandate was actually pretty simple. Big banks had to build a risk framework for the entire company that was built on data that was consistent, timely, and accurate. No more silos, no more excuses. And that single rule, it set off an earthquake that rippled through the whole industry. It kicked off what we're calling the warehouse revolution, building a single source of truth. And this brings up a fascinating question, right? What on earth happens when a multi-trillion-dollar industry is forced to rebuild its entire data infrastructure all at the same time? The answer is a massive, unprecedented tidal wave of tech investment. And when I say massive, I am not exaggerating. The financial fallout was just staggering. We are talking about billions, with a B, of dollars being poured into building brand new risk warehouses, data lakes, and all the governance frameworks needed to run them. So how did they even do it? Well, it basically became a 4-step playbook for the whole industry. First, you had to consolidate all the data from those scattered, fragmented systems. Step 2, you had to build these huge, centralized data warehouses and lakes to put it all in one place. Step 3, and this is so important, you had to implement data lineage, which is basically a way to track where every single piece of data came from and its entire journey. And finally, the ultimate goal, prove to the regulators without a shadow of a doubt that your risk numbers were solid. And all of this work led to a really profound shift in thinking. It brought us into a new era of compliance as code, when database architecture becomes the law. And this is where the story gets really, really interesting. The impact was immediate, and it was huge. Enterprise-wide risk governance was now the law of the land. Data aggregation had to be consistent. It spurred this massive build-out of risk warehouses across the industry. And maybe the biggest change of all, data governance was no longer just some IT issue. It became a board-level responsibility. All of a sudden, database architects were sitting in the same high-stakes compliance meetings as the lawyers. And this is the permanent legacy. This regulation essentially fused two fields that used to be pretty separate. In banking today, you just can't talk about risk management without talking about data management. They're two sides of the same coin, completely inseparable. Okay, so let's bring it all home and look at the new world this created. This is our final section, a new foundation, the legacy of heightened standards. The transformation was it was night and day. The industry went from that old world of fragmented dashboards and messy data silos to a new normal, built on unified warehouses. They finally had what everyone called a golden source of truth, and the entire mindset shifted from just reactively reporting on problems to proactively governing the data. The whole paradigm was flipped right on its head. And when you boil it all down, it all comes back to this one simple, powerful truth. The OCC's mandate really laid bare a critical reality for the entire financial system.
Resilience requires data integrity. It's not just some technical buzzword. It is the absolute foundation of a stable and trustworthy bank in our modern world.